Consistency is the key to winning tennis matches. At all levels of the game, it's normally the player that makes the most unforced errors that loses the match. And that's why if you want to win more matches this year, you need to do everything you can to improve your level of consistency. So in this video, I'm going to explain 5 ways that you can dramatically improve your consistency this year. Hopefully you enjoy the video and get a lot out of it. If you do, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel before, it's always appreciated if you could do that as well. The first thing you need to do if you want to be a more consistent player this year is make consistency a priority within your practice and your matches. Now that might sound obvious, but most players don't do it. Most players are obsessed with crushing the ball and hitting winners. And it's very evident when you watch people practice and when you watch people play. It's common for players to go to the court without any real plan. They'll spend the first few minutes hitting the ball down the middle, trying to hit it as hard as they can, imposing their ego on the other player. They'll make some good shots and they'll spray a load of errors. Then after doing that, they then start to play points and maybe play a set where they're going for ridiculous shots and just missing too many balls. First and foremost, you need to understand that consistency is a mindset, it's an attitude, it's a mental approach that you have to develop. You have to develop the discipline over time. So you need to reflect that in your practice. Go out there with a plan. Maybe you're on your own working on a ball machine going, right, I'm going to work on hitting cross-court forehands. You set yourself up a relatively easy feed. Can I hit 10 forehands in a row with this relatively easy feed? If you can do that, then make it a little bit harder. Okay, can I now hit with slightly more power, maybe slightly more spin, and still make 10 balls in a row? And then you do the same sort of thing when you're practicing with partners. Set yourself a target. Between us, can we hit 20 balls in a row without making a mistake? If you can do that, can we increase the pace a little bit? Or maybe we're working trying to hit the ball behind the service line, so we're hitting it deep 10 times in a row each, 20 times total. Realistically, in a match, there's very few times where you need to hit 10 balls in a row. But if you can do that on a consistent basis, your chances of doing it in a match are going to go up dramatically. And following on from that, you need to develop the discipline and have better shot selection when you play points, when you play matches. Tennis tactics are really simple. Most of the time, if someone hits it to your forehand, you hit it cross-court back to their forehand, aiming for a big target, not going too close to the line. Same thing on the backhand side. And then when you get a shorter ball, you take it down the line, but you don't try and crush it and hit it for a winner close to the line. Just aim for a big target, because most opponents are going to miss. You just have to get the ball in 4 or 5 times, allow your opponent to miss, and that's how you win points, and that's how you win matches. The second thing that you should focus on this year if you want to be a more consistent player is the quality and speed of your preparation and footwork. Because when you watch the majority of players play, the reason that they miss balls and make unforced errors, other than poor shot selection, the second biggest reason for mistakes is not being set up either in time or in the right position. So a lot of players are late to prepare, and because of that, they weren't able to execute their shot. But a lot of players are also out of position. So maybe they didn't recognize the short ball quickly enough, so they didn't get up to it. Maybe they didn't recognize the deep ball and didn't move back to give themselves time. Or often players get too close to the ball and get jammed, and that causes them to miss their shots. So to fix all of those problems, you have to work on your preparation. To help you with that side of things, I've created a free footwork program that's going to teach you how to train the footwork patterns to help you set up in better positions. I'll place a link up there, and I'll place a link down in the description so you can get hold of this free program and start working on it. The third thing that you can do to become a more consistent player this year is to simplify your stroke. Now, this doesn't apply to everyone, but it does apply to the vast majority of players, because most players are trying to use techniques that are too advanced for their skill level. And I think the fault has to lie in large part on YouTube coaches, because there are so many videos making ridiculous claims, talking about the secret to hitting pro forehands or pro backhands or pro serves in 3 or 4 or 5 simple steps. So players have got the illusion that they can hit the ball like the pros. The way that the pros hit it is the biomechanically best way to hit the ball if you can do it. It allows you to hit with amazing power and spin and still get the ball to land in. But unfortunately, to use those techniques, you have to have unbelievable eye-to-hand coordination. You have to have amazing timing. And if you don't have amazing eye-to-hand coordination and timing, it makes it very hard to use those techniques consistently. So depending on the level that you play at, potentially you might need to simplify your stroke considerably. So instead of using a next-gen forehand where you've got the racket tip pointing down the other end of the court and you have to use this crazy racket lag, you are allowed to just be a little bit more classical. Just get the racket back. Obviously you need a good U-turn, unit turn. You need to prepare your body because you still want to be using your kinetic chain, but it doesn't have to look quite as extravagant as the pros look. You can just use a more appropriate technique for your current ability or skill level. Because like I said in part 2, one of the main reasons that players miss shots is they're not ready and set up in the right position. So if you focus on your preparation, simplify your technique, and have the intent of being more consistent, those 3 things can take you a long, long way and help you drastically reduce the number of errors you make. The 4th thing that you can do to become a more consistent player this year is start training your vision and coordination to improve your skill level. Because as I've just said, in order to use high-level technique, you have to have amazing eye-to-hand and eye-to-foot coordination so that you can get the timing. You have to be able to adapt the angle of your racket face to deal with the different types of ball that you're dealing with. And that requires a lot of eye-to-hand and eye-to-foot coordination to be able to do it. The good news is you can actually train and improve those things, and by doing that, it will give you more control over your shots and it will enable you to learn and use higher level techniques. Now, instead of going over how to do that here, I've got other videos that talk about that on YouTube. So I'll place a link down in the description to a video that's going to show you how to do some vision training exercises, and one that's going to talk about how to train and work on coordination. The 5th thing that you can do this year to become a more consistent player is improve your fitness. Now, this doesn't apply to everyone because there are some players that are tremendously fit, but the vast majority of players aren't fit enough to use good footwork for the full length of a match. Because there's one thing just kind of making it through a 3-set match, but when you're using good footwork, doing a split step on every single shot, it requires a lot more energy, and obviously that's what's required to have a high degree of consistency, because you've got to be set up in the right position. Because of that, it's important for most players to improve their level of fitness. And then the 5 things that you can do this year. Number 1 is to focus on it within your practice and within your matches, having better shot selection, being kind of tactically smarter. Number 2 is going to be working on your footwork and your preparation so you can get set up in better positions. Number 3 is potentially simplifying your strokes and using a technique that's more relevant to your skill level. Number 4, improving your eye-to-hand and eye-to-foot coordination so you've got greater control over your shots. And then number 5, working on your fitness. Now, as you can see, a lot of this isn't glamorous. It isn't sexy, but there really aren't any shortcuts in tennis. There's no secret to hitting the ball like the pros. It doesn't work like that. You have to make a plan. You have to focus on your limitations. So if your limitations are movement, you have to work on that to be able to get to the ball. And you have to kind of build from the foundations upwards: footwork, movement, getting to the ball, sensible technique and consistency. And then when you can do that, then you start to layer in complexities, make your stroke a little bit more complex, and then over time try and become a more advanced player. Okay, if you've got any questions about what I talked about today, any comments or thoughts, leave them down below. I love to hear your feedback. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, again, much appreciated if you could do that as well.